Welcome to Talkin' Waukesha, the podcast where every conversation springs to life.
I'm Andrew Nofke.
And I'm Anthony Terrell.
And we're your hosts for today's journey into the heart of Waukesha.
Whether you're a local or just passing through, join us as we explore the stories, people, and hidden gems that make Waukesha truly special.
From community events to personal anecdotes, we're here to bring you the pulse of our vibrant town.
So grab your favorite beverage, sit back, and let's dive into another episode of Talkin' Waukesha,
where every conversation springs to life. Welcome back for another episode of Talkin' Waukesha. Today we're here with Brian Charlesworth, the Fire Marshal for the Waukesha Fire Department. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So today we're going to be talking about, fire safety, especially around the holidays. So according to the National Fire Protection Agency, or the NFPA, December is the leading month for U.S. home fires. So what would you say are some of the largest contributors to seeing increased fires in homes during the holidays?
Mostly it revolves around the fact that everybody is home. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of activity in your homes. You have a lot of family visitors, get-togethers, and actually kind of a strange phenomenon that we found during COVID when everybody was working from home. Our fires increased because everybody was home. Mm-hmm. So the holidays are very much the same. It's just all the activities taking place in the home. Our most common fire is cooking related, and obviously we're cooking a lot during the holidays, whether that be your holiday cookies, holiday meals, whatever that is. So it really is just a function of everybody being home and all the cooking activities that take place, and all different kinds of cooking activities that take place during the December.
I guess I really hadn't thought, it makes a ton of sense hearing it, but more people are home, so it's going to be, there's more chance of fire because there's more people around. If you're not home, you're not likely to cause a fire at home.
Exactly.
I wouldn't have even thought of it as because of cooking. I would have thought everyone's plugging in lights, so there's electrical fires happening, so more things are happening, or more people have fireplaces going. You have a live fire in your home, and that's where those fires are coming. But it's interesting to hear. It is mostly still cooking.
And those are certainly viable concerns or issues, but it's even around the holidays, our most common fire is still typically cooking related.
Sure. Yeah. So what does the fire department, or how does the fire department prepare for the increase in calls during the holiday season?
Well, and interestingly enough, our call volume doesn't tend to spike over the holidays. The types of calls we respond to change slightly, where we might go on more fire-related calls like cooking or issues with extension cords, overloaded power strips, things that happen as a result of the holidays. But a lot of people tend to not want to go to the doctor or to the hospital over the holidays, so our EMS calls can be a little less during that time. So it kind of balances out. Our calls tend to, on a monthly average, stay fairly consistent, but we do see the holidays tend to be more of a all or nothing kind of scenario for us. Either you're really busy or it's relatively calm considering.
And you're allowed to say those words?
Yeah, well, keep in mind, this isn't, there's some guys right now that are probably wondering why their side hurts a little bit because of some of the things that I just said.
It's like when you get that ring in your ears, like someone's talking about me. It's like someone said things are going to be normal.
But it's just the trends. I mean, our trends show that historically, we do see a little bit of an uptick. Obviously, we're staffed for it. We're prepared. We're ready to respond to whatever comes in. Uniquely, 2 years ago on Thanksgiving, almost 2 years ago, we had 2 fires in one day. I was called in twice to do fire investigations. Unfortunately, one of them turned out to be a fatality. But it can be busy. Strangely enough, we just talked about how cooking is the most common, and neither one of those fires were cooking related. But it can be a busy season for us.
And I can imagine with the trend of everyone wanting to deep fry their turkeys too, and then especially those. I've done that once with some family friends, and it's terrifying just to do it, and if you do it improperly.
Fortunately, YouTube has helped us a lot in that sense because people have seen all the videos. They see the what not to do videos. And it's still a thing. It's not as popular, I'll say, as it once was. It was that new trend to deep fry your turkey. People still do it, but everybody's gotten a little better about common sense safety.
Yeah.
The technology and the equipment for it has become more mainstream.
Well, and they've learned that maybe doing it inside the garage isn't the best plan.
Yeah.
So
The farthest point from your house,
wet the grass.
down the driveway, fire hose in hand kind of thing.
even though that would fire hose probably isn't, water and oil is not a good combination.
Well, it's not, but if it's a big enough fire, enough water will put it out. Obviously, we would never recommend putting water on an oil or grease fire. It does have very bad outcomes if it's inside your kitchen. If it's outside your driveway, that's a little different, but we would always recommend having a fire extinguisher that's rated for grease fires if you're going to use an outdoor or a turkey fryer, I should say.
Is there I remember that extinguishers have a class too. Is it like class A, B, C?
They do. So that would be the proper extinguisher for that would be an ABC or an all-purpose that meets all three of the classes. A grease fire would technically be a class C fire, but there's just not that many that you can buy for your home that are rated for that. So it would be an ABC.
Might as well get it for all purposes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Perfect. So many families are planning meals, decorating, and setting up their homes for gatherings. So let's talk about how to make fire safety part of that holiday planning. So how would you recommend that families make fire safety part of their holiday planning? I mean, just said it in the lead in, but
I mean, the biggest thing, if obviously we're going to be cooking a lot of meals, and the probably the best thing you can do is try to keep the kitchen organized. I know that's not easy, especially even in my own kitchen. But the key is to keep everything away from the cooking surfaces, anything that's combustible. Keep those areas clear. We would always recommend that, but especially during the holidays, you have a lot going on in your house, especially if there's family there, there's distractions. The other thing is always make sure you leave yourself enough time, plan accordingly, make sure you look at your menus, and work backwards. We find a lot of times people get in a hurry and they just, if I just turn this up a little hotter, it'll be okay. And sometimes it's not. So make sure you give yourself enough time. Never recommend leaving anything unattended on the stove. So that's a big one too, is make sure you always have somebody that can stay with the appliances that are in use and that can keep an eye on what's being prepared.
Yeah. And I think even it just kind of popped in my mind is thinking people wearing aprons. It's a good thing to keep yourself clean, but it also keeps all your loose fitting clothing kind of tied back. And
Absolutely. Yeah. And big, bulky, the proverbial ugly Christmas sweater. Not a good idea when you're cooking. Yeah. It's okay to have long sleeves, but nothing bulky that hangs down that could come in contact with
your garlands and pom-poms and all that kind of fun stuff.
So what are common mistakes people make during holiday meal preparation that can cause fires?
I think I mentioned the biggest one is just not preparing enough and then trying to do things quickly and then trying to turn the heat up to give it a little extra. Those are big ones. And then trying something new for the first time.
Sure.
Those tend to be, especially we talked about the turkey fryers. A lot of people broke those out on the day they were going to use it for the first time.
Sure.
And with all the stress and everything going on during the holidays, it's always a good idea to do a dry run if you're going to try something new, especially a cooking technique or a new appliance. And, just make sure that you've prepared appropriately. I can't stress that enough, that having a plan that you're familiar with and comfortable with is the best thing because it's those unintended things that we didn't expect to happen that can sometimes cause issues that invite the firefighters to your house on the holidays.
So November 1st, that's when if you're going to deep fry turkey, try it on the 1st.
Yep.
And then, hopefully by, whatever day it lands on, then, that fourth Thursday, you're ready to go.
Well, you also I don't see why you want to test it the first day, because even if everything goes perfectly, like what if it's not good?
Yeah.
Now
I would disagree with that, but it does happen. And the other thing that I can't stress enough is follow the manufacturer's instructions for the appliance that you're using, whether that be a new stove, a turkey fryer, anything that you're going to be using new, whatever kind of appliance it is.
Yeah.
As much as I don't like to read the instructions because I can figure it out.
But they're there for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. They're obviously there for a reason. So make sure you at least browse through those instructions and make sure that there's nothing that caught you off guard.
Sure. Makes sense. So what's one thing you wish that every resident understood about how quickly a small fire can spread and become a much bigger situation?
So to put it in true scientific terms, I don't know that anybody may or may not understand this, but fires expand logarithmically, which means roughly they expand about 10 times in size every 30 seconds.
Wow.
So if you do the math on that, that's a lot. And they can grow very fast. And almost always when we do fire investigations, which I'm part of the fire investigation team, one of the things that we hear a lot, and not every time, but a majority of the time is, I can't believe how fast that spread, or I can't believe how fast that took off. A small flame, by the time you run and get your fire extinguisher, which we should talk about that too, the fire can grow tremendously in the amount of time it takes you to get to your fire extinguisher and get back to the fire. So just understand that, especially with the modern appliances, the modern furniture, the carpet, everything that's in our houses contributes to fire spreading faster than it did 30, 40, 50 years ago. So very important to keep those extinguishing devices close by. And just understand it's going to happen quickly. Unfortunately, your brain tends to slow things down in an emergency to try to help you cope with that flight or fight response, but it's happening fast, and it's going to happen fast.
So with fire extinguishers, how realistically, how close or how at hand should they be during cooking times, especially around the holidays?
So I always recommend keeping a fire extinguisher in the kitchen, accessible. I'm not going to say within arm's reach, because that's not always practical, but you need to have one in the area, in the immediate area, whether it's inside a cabinet, in your pantry, on the counter next to the stove is never wrong, but I know they're not pretty, so people don't like them just sitting out there. But always have one within the immediate area, within a few feet. A lot of kitchens are near your garage. So having one just outside the door to the garage is fine. They're not typically affected by cold. Even in Wisconsin, climates are typically not cold enough to impact them. So having it in the garage is completely fine, especially if it's close to the kitchen. But we want it to be close by. You don't want to have to run upstairs or run down to the basement, come back upstairs, more because it creates a lot of hazards for the individual. So lots of opportunities to trip, fall, and then hurt yourself, as well as have the fire. So the closer you can keep it, the better, especially in an emergency, in a panic or flight or fight type situation.
And for kind of the consumer grade fire extinguisher, is there a length of time that one should be repurchased or recharged in some way?
So typically for a commercial building, we'd say they have to be serviced and inspected every year. Most of the fire extinguishers you can get for your home are good for 6 years.
Okay.
After 6 years, they require some extended maintenance that can't be done on the smaller home style fire extinguishers. So really, if your fire extinguisher is over 6 years old, you should probably consider buying a new one. Yeah.
How would you dispose of an old one then properly?
So, strangely enough, the easiest way to do it is to discharge it, so that it's not pressurized anymore. And then a lot of recycling centers will take them. If you don't want to discharge it, that's absolutely fine. We recommend just taking it to a fire extinguisher shop. A lot of them will happily take it off your hands because they'll recycle it themselves. So, a fire extinguisher shop, if you are completely at a loss, we could potentially take it at the fire department. Unfortunately, we have to recycle it ourselves. So, even if a third or a quarter of the residents in the city all brought us their fire extinguishers after the holidays, that would be a problem. But if there is an issue finding a place, they can certainly call the Fire Prevention Bureau at the fire department. We can help out with that.
And is there a particularly safe way to discharge the
So you always want to make sure you don't get the powder on any vehicles or electronics. So if your yard's not big enough to do that, then by all means don't, because the powder can be somewhat caustic over time. So it will damage automotive paints and it will damage circuit boards and electronics. So if that's an issue, by all means, don't do that. If you take it to an extinguisher shop, they have special little devices that they can discharge it into that contains all the powder. So if that's an issue, then just take it someplace that'll recycle it for you.
And is it safe to go down into like storm sewers if you're going to rinse it out? I'll rinse off any surfaces that had it on it?
Yeah, it's basically a form of baking soda or baking powder. So it does have if you ever have the opportunity to get it in your face, which unfortunately I've had, it does have a little salty, gritty flavor to it. It's not dangerous, but because of that salt component, it does eat through paints and circuit boards. So again, it's not dangerous if you discharge it in your home. It will irritate your eyes and your throat again because of the salt component of it. But it's not that you have a situation where you have to hire a cleaning company to come and clean your home.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Well, good to know. I've got a fire extinguisher in a box in my coat closet right now that I should probably take out.
Take out of the box, put it next to your...
Put it at least under the sink.
Yep.
Or on top of the fridge.
Have one per floor. That's what I like
I do
doing.
have one in the basement that's hooked up, like drilled into the holder in the wall.
Perfect.
In my little shop area.
It's something to note, I did talk about if your fire extinguisher is over 6 years old, all fire extinguishers are required to have the date of manufacture on them. Typically, it is on the bottom of the fire extinguisher. If you turn it over, you will see the year that it was manufactured in. If you look all over that fire extinguisher and you cannot find a date of manufacture anywhere, it's too old.
Yeah.
So understand
That makes sense.
that requirement has been there for probably close to 30 years.
Sure.
So if you do not have a date of manufacture anywhere on your extinguisher, it's time to recycle it.
Yeah. Makes sense.
And our fire extinguisher is something that you could just buy at Walmart, Amazon, Target.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
There's not a wrong place to buy them.
No, and they even make, I have one in my own home, some now that are specifically for your kitchen cooktop. They spray a foam spray that is going to knock down a cooking fire or a grease fire. They're meant to be used in a little more close quarters than like a big commercial fire extinguisher. And they work fine for that application. And if that's what you want to put by your stove in the kitchen, that's absolutely acceptable. May not handle the full turkey fryer fire, but a small fire on your cooktop, it is more than capable of doing that. So there's a lot of options when you go out there and say, well, I want to buy a fire extinguisher. It's kind of like saying I'm going to buy a car. There's a lot, not as many options for fire extinguishers as cars, but a lot of options. So if you ever have any questions about what is or is not acceptable, by all means, again, just call the Fire Prevention Bureau at the fire department.
Perfect.
Awesome. So most holiday fires begin with everyday activities like cooking, heating, or decorating. Holiday meals often mean busy kitchens, multiple dishes, lots of distractions. In your experience, what are some of the most common mistakes people make while cooking that can lead to fires and how they can be avoided? I know we kind of talked about some of that stuff.
A little bit. The biggest thing is leaving things unattended on the stove. And one of the things we tell people, doesn't matter what time of the year it is, but we always say, if you're going to leave the room and you're cooking, use something to remind you that you have something cooking on the stove. Probably the easiest thing to do in the world we live in today is just set a timer on your phone. And just do a 5-minute, 2-minute, 3-minute. Probably wouldn't recommend more than that timer, so that if you do walk away, somebody rings the doorbell, Amazon drops off your Christmas presents, whatever that may be, that you remind yourself to go back to the kitchen and check on it. I understand how easily it is to get distracted. But we always encourage people to use some kind of a reminder. The easiest, obviously, is the smartphone. Not everybody uses smartphones. So if that's the case, we always recommend it's not expensive on Amazon, Walmart, Target, any of those places, to get a little kitchen timer that you can throw in your pocket that would remind you that you have something cooking. That's really the biggest thing. The other thing that we always have to throw out there is, again, don't experiment on the holidays with your cooking. Make sure you know what you're doing and that you've tried it and you know what's safe and what isn't, especially when it relates to cooking.
The different type of like stove tops, whatever it's either induction, electric, gas, are there different things for each of those type of things that people should be aware of? Especially when it comes to cooking?
Strangely enough, a lot of people think that gas is the most common cause of fires, gas stoves. They're actually not. It's electric. And the reason being is you don't physically see a flame. you don't physically see the hazard. Now your burner can be bright red, but it doesn't take a bright red burner to catch grease on fire. So a lot of people fear the gas, but more if you follow the national averages, it's more common to actually have a cooking fire on an electric stove. Induction as well. We consider induction electric. The biggest reason is people, when you cook on gas, you have a visual of the actual flame itself. So you can see that, oh, I got that turned up too high. I need to turn that down. With electric, you don't necessarily see that you've got it turned up too high, like you can. And induction especially is very tricky because if you pull the pan off and put your hand on the burner, it's not hot. It's only the pan that's hot. So it's just the people feeling comfortable because you don't physically see the hazard, but the hazard's still there.
Right, especially if you're cooking something and you've then boiled all the water out of it and the ingredients themselves are becoming a fire hazard.
And that's not uncommon with cooking, is just, you were cooking something and it got over prepared. Even in the oven, we get a lot of oven fires where people put things in the oven and forget about them. And, fortunately the oven will contain the fire for a period of time, but, a lot of people don't think about the oven as being a fire hazard. Something strangely enough that has happened with oven fires in the last few years and throughout my career, people tend to use their oven for storage, and they put things in there that are not conducive to being heated up very hot, especially storage containers and things that will melt, plastics. So be sure that if you, we don't ever recommend using your oven for storage because that's how accidents happen. But if that is the case, make sure that the only thing you put in your oven are things that wouldn't catch on fire if you accidentally left them in there.
Yeah, sure.
Most common is like your cast iron cooking pots and pans, maybe a pizza stone, something that's not going to catch on fire. But we've had several fires, especially over my career, where people have put things like table center pieces that were outdated, that didn't meet the holiday theme, storage containers, plastic storage containers, and things that tend to melt. And so just a reminder that oven is not a storage device. And if you are going to use it for that, make sure it's pots and pans that won't catch on fire.
We're specifically talking like the actual oven itself, not the drawer at the bottom of the oven.
Yes, the actual oven
Although
itself.
some of the drawers on some ovens are actually broilers.
Yes, they are.
So make sure you know.
Yeah. I mean, especially with the advent of smart appliances, there's, you just talked about getting a new
I was going to
oven.
actually talk about that. So if you do have a new oven, my oven has a Wi-Fi button on it.
Yes.
Had no idea what it was. I did it. I got an app. And now when I preheat my oven and when I have the timer going, I get notifications on my phone when they go off.
Yes.
So it's like, I think that's another great way. Like if you've got this modern technology, use it. And there's just another safe.
But also another encouragement of don't store stuff in it, because if you're preheating the oven from work, you now have just possibly enabled a situation of and preheated the oven with something in there that shouldn't be in there.
Yes.
I'll be honest. The first time I looked at it, I just bought a new stove a couple years ago, and I saw this wireless preheat option, and I was like, "Oh, that's great! You could be at the store picking up dinner, and by the time you get home, your oven's preheated."
Right
The downside to that is you don't know what's in that oven when you turn it on because you're not there.
Yeah.
You almost need like the camera function that like new fridges have of like, let's peek in first and then.
So I think it's a nice convenience feature, but if somebody's at home, maybe make a phone call home quick and say, hey, if I preheat the oven, is everything good? Because I do see that at some point in my future, I see that
being an issue.
Yeah.
It's got its pros and its cons. Because also sometimes too, it's like, oh no, I have to wait 10 minutes for my oven to preheat.
Right.
Like we're not going to go hungry because I have to wait 10 minutes.
No, but I can certainly see I have a daughter, but she's much older now. But I can certainly understand that you're at the store picking things up and you need the oven ready to go when you get home. Great convenience feature.
It is,
Totally understand it. But I also see that as being a potential for a accident in the future.
Yeah. And going back to timers too, when you're setting those timers, make sure you put a note of what that timer's for.
Yes.
Especially around the holidays. It's like, okay, you've got, you know,
3,
green
4
bean
things.
casserole going in at this time, potatoes going in at this time, turkeys in at this time. Know what you're needing to take in and out, not only for food safety things, but just, you know, overcook one thing.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, knowing my house, there'd be something in the oven, but then that timer is actually for the laundry that I have to go check. And now that I left something in the oven, and it's a whole disaster.
And especially with smart devices too, and with names I won't say just so I don't trigger people's devices. Tell them what the timer's for, and then when they go off, they'll tell you, you know, which item it's been timed off for.
Yeah.
So what are the some of the important safety practices for using space heaters correctly? I know we're kind of getting into that colder season. So what should people do to deal with them properly and make sure that they're not a source of a fire?
So space heaters, if used properly, are very safe. But what I will say is if you have an older space heater that does not shut off automatically if it's tipped over, I would recommend not using it. And if you have an older, and when I say older, I'm talking like 30, 40 years old, space heater that has a visible electric coil that glows red hot, and if you can put a match in there and that match will fire off, it will do the same thing to anything it touches. So we recommend not using those, just getting rid of them, throw them away, take them to electronics recycling, whatever it is that you need to do. Modern space heaters that are ceramic, oil-filled, or have a contained heating element that doesn't come in contact with combustibles is the way we recommend. And modern space heaters, and I say modern within the last 12 to 15 years, will have overcurrent protection built in. They'll have overheat protection built in, and they will shut off if they're tipped over. And those have significantly reduced the number of fires with space heaters. So again, perfectly fine to use. You know, you get that one cold room in your house, or your basement's a little colder than the upstairs. Absolutely fine to use, but just make sure you're using one with modern safety features. If you ever have a question about what is or isn't acceptable, again, I know I've said it before, but I can't stress it enough. Just call the Fire Prevention Bureau. We can tell you what's good and what's not. Unfortunately, with I'll just say with Amazon being out there and all the products that you can order from all over the world from Amazon, sometimes stuff doesn't meet the current safety requirements when you order things like that. Typically, if you go to a department store, if it's on the shelf in the department store, there's a really good chance it does meet those requirements. Doesn't guarantee it though. So the biggest thing to look for, and this is hard to do, is you want to make sure it has a UL listing, and that stands for Underwriters Laboratory. They make the design standards for almost anything and everything that's an electronic device. And they'll have a little sticker. A lot of times it's even a little hologram sticker, and it'll say UL listed, and it'll give the standard number. That's not always as important to the end user or the consumer, but the fact that it's been tested by Underwriters Laboratory is what is very important. And that's usually easy to find. Typically, if you flip over to the back to the instructions or turn over the bottom where the barcode is, the UPC code, the UL listing stamp is almost right there on the container, the package, the cardboard. So make sure that it's UL listed specifically. There's other agencies out there. One of the most common is ETL, but UL is the most reliable.
And those uphold all the U.S. fire codes and everything like that as well.
As a matter of fact, if you were in a commercial building, much like City Hall, and I found a space heater that wasn't UL listed, that would actually be a fire code violation.
Okay. And I have I don't know if this is a specific situation or if this is to most heaters, but one of my heaters in my house says like you can't plug it into like a power strip. Is that a common thing with these like space heater type things?
Yes, I'm actually glad you said that. Space heaters do need to be plugged in directly to an outlet.
Okay.
Can't use extension cords. All right, let me rephrase that. The fire codes don't apply to people's homes, but you should not use extension cords, and they should not use power strips. And the reason being is that space heater draws a little bit more current than what the power strips and extension cords are rated for, and can draw it for a little bit longer. Okay. Now, the supply cord to the space heater is rated for that, and your outlet in the wall is rated for that. But those extension cords and power strips are not. So always make sure that you're plugging stuff directly into an outlet when it's like a space heater.
So what things can people keep in mind when setting up their Christmas trees, either live or artificial, to keep them from becoming a fire hazard?
Great question. So Christmas trees specifically, Christmas lights, especially if they're LEDs, we recommend LED Christmas lights. I personally they've grown on me. You know, I liked the old incandescent lights, but I've had LED lights for years now, and I'll be honest, I've gotten used to them. I think it's just change. You know, nobody likes change. But the LED lights draw very little current. You can chain multiple strands of lights together.
There's a lot you can for LEDs. I think
I've seen some that go up to 25. It's
I feel like
crazy.
I've seen even greater than that, like up to like 80. I'm like, that's crazy and doesn't seem right at all.
I mean, if you're Clark Griswold, that's probably great.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
you know, sorry, reference to an old school movie there. But the biggest thing is don't overload your lights. Read the instructions. Make sure you put the right amount of lights together. Incandescent lights historically are limited to 3. Fortunately, the modern ones have fuses built into them. So even if you do overload them, there is inline fuses built into the plugs. But the key is make sure you follow the instructions. I can't stress that enough. But then much like with the space heaters, you can use power strips, you can use extension cords, but you can't use multiple power strips or multiple extension cords.
Easy chaining is a bad thing.
Power strips have to plug directly into an outlet as well as extension cords. So you can't plug an extension cord into an outlet strip and you can't plug an outlet strip into an extension cord. Doing that actually circumvents some of the safety features of both the extension cord and the outlet strip. So very important to keep in mind that those do need to plug in directly to outlets. It's not wrong to use them. Extension cords and outlet strips are meant for temporary use, and that, without getting too deep into the weeds, is basically 90 days. So for the most part, although it is getting kind of strange with Christmas decorations, 90 days is enough time to set those up temporarily. And then the other key is if you have a natural tree, a natural cut tree, absolutely fine. But you got to keep it watered. You got to keep water in the tree stand. It's a daily routine. It has to become your daily routine to just top off that water, and then no open flames or essentially candles within any proximity of the natural tree, natural wreath, whatever that may be. I know Advent wreaths are still popular, and those can be made out of natural greenery. In my career, we've had 2 fires from Advent wreaths that the candles were not extinguished. One of them, unfortunately, was a local landmark right in downtown Waukesha that burned down a very historic church in 2007.
I remember that, yeah.
So no candles around natural greenery at all. We would never recommend that. Would say never. That's setting yourself up for failure at some point.
Are most artificial trees and ornaments, and they're not ornaments, but artificial things, are they more fire protected? Like they've got some sort of coating on it to prevent from fire spread?
We'd still never recommend candles on a Christmas tree, artificial or real. But obviously artificial trees have some fire retardant capabilities built into them versus a natural tree. But most tests over the years have proven that natural trees, as long as they keep the water in there, they're safer. I mean, they'll still catch on fire. It's not like it won't catch on fire, but they're safer than obviously having a bone dry, brittle Christmas tree. And fortunately, with the, as common as LED lights are, that electrical failure, I'll say, of your lights has become significantly less of a fire hazard than the incandescent lights, just from the amount of current and the heat.
Sure.
And there's definitely enough not technology, air quote technology out there for helping you with watering your trees. I know my folks get a natural tree every year, and we've found that there are basically makeshift like brining barrels basically that are like 1 gallon of water that you can box up to make it look like a Christmas package underneath the tree, or, fill the water up from there so you're not having to crawl underneath the tree every day. And there's ways to keep them fresh and good and ready to go. And when you're putting the tree in, when they ask if you want that fresh cut, it's to help it drink more water too.
Yes.
So
yeah, absolutely. Even if the person that you purchase your live tree, or I should say natural cut tree. They're not live anymore once you purchase them. But
Air quote live.
Yes, always a good idea to remove about an inch off the base of the tree. That opens it up and allows it to really, for lack of a better term, get a good drink of water early when it's put into your house. It's always a good idea to let them sit in water for about 24 hours before you start decorating it. That gives the water a chance to get in there and really saturate throughout the branches. And then it's ready to go.
And if it's frozen, lukewarm water, not hot.
Correct.
Hot water will kill the tree. Lukewarm will make it all kind of relax. I mean, think of it like muscles, basically.
Yes. You don't want it to feel hot to the touch.
No.
Sure. And then if someone wanted to take an extra prevention step, are there sprays that they could spray on the tree to like help it be not fireproof, but like at least reduce that risk?
There are fire retardant sprays you can put on natural trees. A lot of the testing that has been done over the years by the National Fire Protection Association and Underwriters Laboratory shows that actually just keeping your natural cut tree watered is the best. Okay. A lot of people become complacent because they say, oh, I sprayed this fire retardant on there, I'm good. And then they don't water it. And the fire retardant doesn't protect dry, crispy, as I like to say, Christmas trees. It only helps if it's well watered. And they found over the years there's been a lot of different treatments you can put in the water that are supposed to help with fires. I'm not going to say they don't work, but the most effective way is to just keep water in the tree.
Yeah. Okay. There's a lot of the things we talked about, Mythbusters have done a great holiday special on, and
absolutely.
Boiling turkeys, keeping your tree from catching fire, warming up, stuff like that. But I don't know if those are free anymore. If you can get those online.
Yeah.
So when you're decorating indoors and outdoors, what sort of things should people watch out for to ensure they're decorating safely?
One of the biggest things is try not to use any clips for your lights. Like if you're putting lights on your house, make sure the clips that you're using are not conductive or essentially metal. Plastic or non-conductive, or metal that might be coated with a plastic coating or a Teflon, something that won't allow that electricity. If that strand of lights should short out in some way, it won't allow that electricity to go back into your home, and it won't ground out against your home. And then the strand of lights will just fail on the exterior, and you'll wonder why your lights don't work. But it won't transfer that electricity back into the house itself. Most Christmas lights nowadays don't have enough electricity for that to be a concern, but everybody decorates to a different level. So we always recommend making sure you use non-conductive clips or hangers for your lights if they're going to be attached to your house. Fortunately, most of the commercially purchased stuff that you can get from a department store is non-conductive for that reason. But you always get the inventive folks that want to build a better mousetrap, so to speak, and do it themselves. So we always just say it's got to be non-conductive for heat purposes and electrical purposes, just safer. And then just like indoors with your Christmas tree, don't overload circuits, don't chain extension cords together, don't chain power strips together. The other thing we say when we recommend, and they work, there's a lot of really neat systems out there, use a timer so that they're not on 24/7.
Sure.
And just obviously from an energy conservation standpoint, most people do that. But if lights are on for a few hours, that's much better than leaving them energized all the time. I have one myself. I have a dusk to dawn timer, but I only set it for dusk plus like 4 hours or 6 hours.
You don't need to impress everyone at 3 in the morning with your lights.
if you're coming home late, then you won't see my lights on, but that's okay.
Yeah. Come home earlier, they can see them.
Yep.
Yeah. Ladder safety, obviously, we don't want to overstress the EMS teams for slips, falls, stuff like that. What kind of recommendations do you have for making sure that putting up decorations is safe for everyone?
So you never want to try to extend beyond the reach of your ladder. If you can't reach it safely with both feet and one hand, always have 3 points of contact is what we say. If you can't safely reach what you're reaching for with 3 points of contact, you need to move the ladder. I can't tell you how many accidents we have where somebody I'm just going to reach that extra couple of inches, and the next thing you know, you get to meet your lovely local firefighters. So,
or standing on the top rung where you're not
exactly.
supposed to stand on.
Don't overextend the ladder. Don't overextend the safety of the ladder. I can't stress enough that if you can't reach it with one hand and 2 feet on the ladder needs to be moved. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
So we kind of talked a little bit about candles before, but they are a big part of the holidays, both for decorating and for tradition. What are some key things that people should keep in mind when using candles or other open flames to make sure they're doing so safely?
So the biggest thing with candles, just like cooking, don't leave them unattended, especially if you have pets. Because pets don't understand that the candle's going to burn their house down. So they don't think anything of it if they knock them over, especially cats. And cats can actually be drawn to flame, and they will actually bat at the candle. Some, not all, but some will. So the biggest keys we say is candles always need to be used on a surface that's non-combustible, ceramic, granite, tile, and they need to be in a container that if they tip over won't allow for fire spread. So like a glass jar. We tell people it's always good to buy the candles that come in the glass jars. For the most part, that's kind of what you see in the stores. You do see the, I don't know, for lack of a better term, like the giant longer candles that you can put in like your candelabra for a centerpiece of the table or something. Those we would recommend never be lit unless somebody's in the room. And then the key is obviously keep your pets away, make sure they're attended, and then make sure they're on a non-combustible surface. If we see candle fires, it does tend to be around the holidays. And the fires I referenced previously with the wreaths, those were all in the holidays. It's not that we see a lot of fires from candles, but I would say the anecdotal evidence would say that those do occur around the holidays.
Right. Makes sense. So even with careful planning, accidents can happen, and preparedness can make all the difference. So there's a lot of people that think, oh, it won't happen to me. It's like, I'm more careful than someone else. So how do you encourage residents to take fire preparedness seriously before a crisis occurs?
So it's interesting you use the phrase, oh, it's not going to happen to me. We do have very little contact with most of the residents in the city. National averages will say less than 3% of your population will ever use the fire department services. With that being said, I never thought this would happen to me is almost the first thing I always hear when I speak with homeowners or apartment residents or people that live there that had a fire. And some of it is the fact that fires don't happen as often as they used to, that there's a little bit of complacency about fires because we have made things safer. I mean, we have made huge strides in fire safety, but there is some complacency because of that. So the biggest thing is just understand that a lot of the stuff that we're talking about here today is real. It's happened. We wouldn't be talking about it if it hadn't. I wouldn't be here if these things hadn't caused fires in the past. So understand that everything we're talking about today has happened. It has caused a fire. So understand that all these tips, everything we've been talking about, do apply to everybody. You're not exempt because you think you're safe. Everybody wants to be safe, but sometimes things happen that are out of your control. So just understand that these things do happen. It does still happen. We do still have fires. Sometimes things happen that are out of your control with your electrical system. Sometimes it's just stuff that you didn't anticipate, that it happens at the wrong time. It never happens at the right time, but happens during the holidays, so to speak.
So how can residents make sure their smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, and fire extinguishers are in working order for the holiday season?
So excellent point. Unfortunately, in Waukesha, we've had some fire fatalities in the past year. And a common theme with 2 of them was having working smoke detectors. It's very simple. There's a test button on every smoke detector. You push that button, and if it goes off, you're good. Always replace the batteries if you have battery backup. Some of the older ones do not. And there are some that are hardwired even in today's standards that you can buy that don't have it. But always have battery backup if it's possible. Replace the batteries, test your smoke detectors. Especially if you're going to have a house full of guests over the holidays, make sure they're safe. Make sure they're going to be safe. You're going to be safe. Smoke detector is the best early warning device in a fire. From the standpoint of everybody getting out safely, but also detecting the fire early enough that it can still be extinguished. We find a lot of our fires that are detected by smoke detectors are smaller, manageable fires that, in a lot of cases, are extinguished before we get there, which is great because that means everybody's safe. And I guess I should probably plug the fact that just because you have a fire and you think it's extinguished, never hesitate to call the fire department. We have a lot of tools that will allow us to determine that it has been extinguished. We've had a couple of fires in my career where people thought the fire was out and they disabled their smoke detectors because it was going off from the smoke, thought they put the fire out, went back to bed. And unfortunately, it wasn't. And the fire then managed to smolder and grow. Nobody, fortunately, in the fires I'm aware of were injured, but that obviously sets up the perfect storm. So if you've had a fire, a small fire, you think it's out, call us. We'll be happy. We're already there. We're already working. We're staffed in our stations 24/7. So we'll come and check it out. And maybe we can even help get some of the smoke out. We carry a lot of big fans and a lot of things that can get the smoke out of your house. So it's always a good idea to let us come and check it out, make sure it's good, make sure it's safe.
And then also fire blankets too. We hadn't talked about those. Are those, do they work?
It's another tool.
Okay.
I certainly don't discourage the use of them, especially for stovetops.
Sure.
The downside is you have to be comfortable to, we say, deploy it or use it. It does mean you have to get a little closer than you would with a fire extinguisher, but they certainly work. They smother the fire. The key to them working, though, is to let it sit.
Sure.
Don't peek under the corner. Don't try to, is it out? Throw that over the top and call the fire department.
Okay.
We'll come in and make sure the fire's out. But if you do have a fire and you have to deploy that blanket, call the fire department. Let us come and check it out. And don't lift it up. Don't peek under it. Let it sit. That's where we find the biggest mistakes. If you read stories from around the country that people have made, it's because they pull those things off thinking, I don't see any fire. It's good. The big thing, though, is that grease, that oil is still hot. And in a lot of cases, just needs a little air to take right back off. So throw the blanket over it. Call the fire department. But they are another tool, just like a fire extinguisher. They do work. If that's a tool that you want to use, by all means, they're there and they can be used successfully.
Right.
I guess one other avenue we haven't really discussed is cooking grills. So if someone's grilling steak, turkey, whatever it may be on an outdoor grill, if they have a flare up of some variety, what's the best way to deal with those kind of fires to keep decks and homes safe?
Or does it make a difference too for propane versus charcoal?
Charcoal does make a difference because with propane, we would always say, turn the burners off and leave the lid closed. It'll burn out. And that's true majority, almost all the time. Obviously, charcoal doesn't turn off. So we always say if you think it's becoming a hazard to the house, leave the lid on. Because if you pull the lid off, it's going to flare up. Leave the lid on and call the fire department. If you have a hose nearby, you can pull that hose out and wet the grill down with the hose to keep the fire under control inside the grill. But be very careful. We would never recommend somebody pulling the lid off their grill, only because that can really cause it to flare up and then cause injury.
Sure.
But if you have the cover off, it's already off, but it's just roaring out of control. Garden hose is the best thing. Even during the wintertime, I tend to grill year round. I'm one of those people that probably is making my steak on New Year's. So, obviously in the wintertime, having a hose nearby isn't as easy. So put a pitcher of water out on the deck, have it nearby just so that you can make sure you have something at least to keep the fire under control until the fire department can get there, especially if it's on your deck or near your house. We always recommend not using a grill on a deck and not having it within 10 feet of the house. I tend to understand that's not always practical at your home. In a commercial building, that is fire code. But always have a water source whenever you have a fire, whether it's an outdoor fire in your backyard or your grill. Make sure you got a water source nearby, even if it's just a bucket of water.
Okay, good.
I've also had a good it's not a good story because I had my propane grill flare up and was burning stuff off the bottom. And so I turned off the gas and went inside, grabbed one of the containers in the back of the fridge of baking soda and just kind of just shook that over the top, and it absorbed some of the excess oils and burned itself out over some time. And I mean, it's a good use once you forget about it in the back of the fridge. It's like, I can go put out a fire.
Even after it's been, all of its, I'll say, odor absorbing capabilities are gone, it does still put out a fire. So yeah, and that's the key with the gas grills is just turn the burners off and let it sit. Eventually it'll burn out. The grill body itself can contain that fire. Obviously it's meant to contain the burners while they're burning. Sure. But you do have to keep an eye on it because you do have a propane tank strapped to the underneath side.
Yeah.
So if that grease or whatever that substance is that caught on fire leaks through the bottom of the grill pan, if you have an older one, maybe there's a hole rusted through it. Keep an eye on it because if it does involve the propane cylinder, that's bad, obviously. And always, again, call the fire department. We can come take a look at it quick and let you know if it's okay, or we'll tell you, hey, that probably is the last time you're going to use that grill. Time for a new one.
I personally keep the propane container outside of it, even there's that divot in the middle for it. I'm like, nope, not worth it. Anything dripping on it, anything like that. And when you want to shut it off too, it's not fun too when there's molten grease dripping out of it too.
Yeah, that's bad.
What tips do you have for ensuring fire safety when hosting family or friends which may not be familiar with your home's fire escape plans or safety routines?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you have friends and family over for Christmas, the last thing they're going to want to hear is, hey, if the smoke detectors go off in the middle of the night, here's the exits, here's the doors. But it doesn't hurt. It's actually not a bad idea. Just, hey, if something happens and you're in your bedroom, just come out the door and turn left. You don't have to do a fire drill. You don't have to do a home evacuation plan.
Well, that could be fun and like a nice holiday tradition. But
Could be. But just make sure they understand, like, hey, this door, not a good door to use if in the middle of the night, or, hey, this door is good. Sometimes people bring pets. So understand that you have to get out first. As much as we don't want to leave our pets behind, it's critical to protect yourself first. We will and have and can and will in the future rescue pets. That's what we do. But understand you got to get yourself out. Too many times across the country, bad things have happened because people didn't worry about getting themselves out first. And, never hurts to, especially if people have never been to your house before, never seen your house before, just a quick, hey, if the smoke detector goes off, you need to get to this door. Again, you don't have to do a full-blown fire drill, but if you wanted to, it wouldn't be wrong. But, just make sure that everybody understands and is familiar with your house. Sometimes people are sleeping in rooms that aren't normally used as bedrooms. You always have the wild card of waking up in a strange place and trying to remember where you are. And unfortunately, as we get older, that tends to be more of an impact on people like myself than some younger folks. So never hurts to just take a quick peek out the door before you go to bed. Like, oh, okay, I need to go down the hall to the left. Much like we would always recommend if you're staying in a hotel. And if you're traveling and you're not staying at the family's residence, but you're staying in a hotel, always recommend picking a hotel that has fire sprinklers, and always recommend that little sign that they put on the back of the door that nobody ever looks at. Just take a quick look at that so you have an idea. How far away is your exit? How far down the hallway? And which way? Do I turn right? Do I turn left? So that's really the critical thing, is making sure you go to your closest exit. Obviously, in a hotel, sprinklers, I personally will not stay in a hotel that doesn't have sprinklers because you can't control what the person down the hall is doing.
Right.
Sure.
But obviously not in people's homes, but, always understand at least which way I'm going to go when I go out the door.
Yeah, you're turning. I mean, especially if it's a hotel, you're turning around to lock the door anyway. Take the 30 seconds, read the little placard that they put on the door.
Yep.
Just at least bare minimum, no left or right, no
They
up.
give you visuals, so
Yeah.
you don't even have to read.
Left, right, no elevator.
Required to be there by fire code. So, make me feel better and actually read it so that I can say that, hey, doing my job helped that person get out. But yeah, just it's not hard. 30 seconds, look at the sign, know which way I'm going to go right, going to go left. Obviously, the exit signs tell you where the door is, but you always want to make sure you get to the closest exit. And sometimes that's not the door you came in.
Right.
Yeah. And so the holidays are times for connection, and small steps can keep those moments safe and worry-free. So where can listeners find more safety information or resources? So
probably the best, I'll say, website out there is the National Fire Protection Association, or NFPA.org. They have a tremendous amount of fire safety resources on their website. The Home Fire Safety Council, unfortunately, I don't know their website off the top of my head, but If you Google search Home Fire Safety Council, there's a lot of good stuff there. NFPA and the Home Fire Safety Council tend to team up this time of year. So probably the most one-stop shop would be nfpa.org for home fire safety tips. And in a lot of cases, they'll have brochures and handouts and all kinds of things related to fire safety year-round. But they always do a big campaign targeted for the holidays this time of year.
Yeah, and I think when I was looking at it for just information, they had coloring pages and all sorts of things for all ages. I mean, so
tremendous amount of resources.
You're 0 to 100 and then some. You've got something there that'll probably connect to something in your life. So if you give one fire safety tip to remember this holiday season, what would it be?
Oh, one tip.
Yeah.
Wow.
Or maybe even the biggest takeaway people should take from this.
So obviously with cooking being our most common fire, the biggest thing that I can't stress enough is don't leave things unattended, whether it's candles, whether it's cooking, whether it's the grill outside. Smoking, using smokers, smoking meats has become very popular. Those devices are, for the most part, designed to be left unattended, but it doesn't hurt to peek out the window every now and then. So probably the best advice I can give people is don't leave things unattended that do have the potential to cause a fire risk. And that can even include your holiday lights, like on your Christmas tree. Always a good idea to turn them off before you go to bed. Make sure they're off if you're going to be leaving the house unattended for an extended period of time. Doesn't mean if you go outside for a little bit that you got to turn everything off and come back in. But the key is just not leaving things that can be a fire hazard unattended.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like a lot of this is just thinking a little bit longer about what's going on, planning ahead, and then you kind of know. So, if you're bringing something out for the grill, making sure you have everything you need so you don't have to go back inside. If you're expecting a package, maybe don't start cooking if possible.
Correct.
I mean, obviously things come up, but
And I always say it's unfortunate. The unfortunate part of my job is if I meet a local resident because of an emergency, I'm probably meeting that person on the worst day of their life.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that over the holidays. I don't want to do it anytime, but especially not the holidays. So, I always tell people, you never want to see me coming to your house at 3 a.m. That's just not good. So, listen to all the stuff we talked about today. And the key is really unattended fire safety hazards. But yeah, if you can do that and have a plan, then hopefully you never see me. I would be happy if I didn't ever meet any residents of the city on an emergency.
Yeah, that's fair.
I love meeting residents of the city. We do PR events. We're out there all the time. We are at the farmers market. We're all over the place. Great opportunity to meet people and talk about fire safety when there's not a fire.
Yeah, it's better to meet you proactively than reactively.
The less of your job you have to do, the better, right?
Yeah, fire investigations are an interesting part of my job, but unfortunately, if I have to do that part of my job, it means somebody's probably had the worst day of their life.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, thank you so much. And if anyone needs to ask any questions about, fire safety, anything like that, what's the best way that they can reach out to the fire department?
They can certainly email the fire department. If you go to our City of Waukesha Fire Department webpage, there's several links to that. You can email myself. I'm Brian, the fire marshal. Carrie Harris is our office assistant.
I don't remember what her title is.
I don't want to butcher her title, but Carrie runs the Fire Prevention Bureau from an administrative support standpoint. She's a great person to talk to, and she can get your questions to the right person. You can always call us at 262-524-3648. That's the general fire prevention number. We'll be happy to answer your questions. We can, if necessary, even stop by your home and look at something. If you think it's not right, we'll certainly stop by and give you some advice on what looks right, what doesn't, and go from there.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much.
Yes, thanks, Brian.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And that's a wrap for another episode of Talkin' Waukesha. We hope you enjoyed diving into the heart of our city with us.
If you have a story to share or just want to say hello, reach out to us on social media at City of Waukesha on Facebook. We love hearing from our listeners.
Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review if you enjoyed the conversation. It really helps us spread the word.
As always, thanks for tuning in to Talkin' Waukesha, where every conversation springs to life.